So first of all, Nantes, it's in the west coast, just the door or the end of the Loire River that everybody knows, which is really important because it goes with the story of Nantes. Nantes, it's really connected to Saint-Nazaire, the port, because first of all, Nantes was the port to the ocean. And after many years of having so many problems with sand in the river, they decided to move the port at Saint-Nazaire. And at the same time, in that history of construction boats in the region, it started to go low and low because of that, because the port was now in Saint-Nazaire. So you probably heard all those big boats that are built in Saint-Nazaire at the moment and no more in Nantes. But the story of Nantes was really linked, and the île de Nantes is really linked to the slave trade, that triangle that makes the city so badly rich with that. And you can see that at the moment, we were, from the 18th century, we were building those boats. And you see here, it was on one island, but many islands. And here, you were saying, if one day you come to Nantes, you don't see anymore an island here, but that was the place where all the ship owners, very rich, were having their, command, and the houses, very rich houses, and they were having all those ship construction there just behind. So that's really the story of that island. And when the port was in Saint-Nazaire and nobody was building anymore at the beginning of the 20th century, beginning to build the ships, this island started to be a nowhere place, really nowhere place. So in the beginning of the century, for 20 years, huge construction. They decided to filling up the Loire River for many reasons we can talk after in the subgroups. So many reasons they just do that, filling up the river. So now, if you go to Nantes, you don't really feel an island effect. You see the river, but you don't really feel it's an island, because on that picture, you see it's really huge. It's 5 kilometers long in the city. But when I just arrived in Nantes 20 years ago, it was a bit like this. So really nothing. The end of construction ships, but empty. So nobody was really going there. And it's one of the key success. A mayor, Jean-Marc Ayrault, who had been our prime minister, I would say that he was better as a mayor. And he decided, at that time, he was mayor for many years. And 30 years ago, they said, okay, we don't have any more ships. And this is just beside downtown. So what we are going to do with this so huge island now? And that was the big project of île de Nantes. So in fact, when you say île de Nantes, it's many islands, many neighborhood realities, really different. And we are going to focus more on this part and this part, which is the more active. The west part is the more active at the moment. So some metrics here. So at the end, it's really important because it's almost 15 to 20,000 people living there. So it's already moving now, but it's not finished. What is important is one of the key success is having for 20 years the same organization called Samoa, which is a really French, maybe some of you knows about it. It's a French system. It's an in-between between public and private, between city and other stakeholders. It's 30 persons working there. And if you see here, you have, it's in French, sorry. So you see, collectivity is the city, aménageur, and you go to the habitants. So it's a big part, it's a green part, it's a big part planning the city in France or main urban places. So it's a middle of a lot of things. And I would say that Samoa moved from being between city and private groups like real estate, and now for the last, I would say 5, 6, 7 years, going more towards citizens and also social economy. It was not that way at first. And there's a lot of pedagogy about that project going on. So all the time there are exhibitions, conferences, visits, a lot of things. So this is one of the nicest places. So 4 lessons learned from Focus. There's 4 things very interesting, I think, with the topic of Urban Maestro. First of all, Quartier de la Création is the creative factory. One of the things the mayor said is, okay, we don't have the boat anymore. Nobody is going to visit Nantes because nobody knows Nantes. It has been a lot destroyed in the second year. So what can we do to give a new identity to our city? And he started by saying art could be that. And it's a really artistic city. And it was an economic challenge because the Quartier de la Création is a place where you have fine art schools, design schools, you have theaters, movie theaters, a lot of things, and also a lot of artistic companies and startups. So one of the things that Samoa is doing really well in that economic challenge is being supporting a lot of an ecosystem of economy around artistic. It could be people who are doing shoes, theater, whatever artistic it is, it's there. So probably you've known about the elephant, but it was also having those local and now international actors that are very known. And kind of it's the city of Jules Verne. Maybe you don't know Nantes. So it's all about the, you know, the vision of Jules Verne of another world. So a lot of, I will talk to later on about this. So a second focus, which is a key success too, is the plinth, like Stipo just learned me when I've been to see them. The plinth, that ground floor, is two things very important in that project. Here is the Prairie au Duc, remember, is the new neighborhood that is in the west. It's still going on at the moment. And in the Prairie au Duc, all the ground floor have two characteristics. First of all, they're just one actor who is keeping, you know, who is having an horizontal view of all this. Means that because not everything is built at the same time, usually retailers don't want to come because they say it's a risk. So in order that you have something that is really active just from the beginning, they said, okay, we are going to have different real estate for the different urban plot, but for the horizontal, we will have just one that we choose. It's a CEST, Groupe CEST, here you have on the slides, and CEST had to manage to have things that were expensive in the ground floor, and those were really easy to go and rent for ONG, NGO, for social economy, in order to have a variety of things, and not only bank or things that can pay a lot, but are not very interesting for activity in the city. So that was the first thing. The second thing, you see on the south of the Prairie au Duc neighborhood, you have a park. And the idea was saying, at first, we don't need all this ground floor place because we have enough on the street that are behind. But at the end, maybe we will need it. So a second key success, another key success was to say, okay, let's do the ground floor 4 meters under the ceiling. We have dwellings there. And if it works well for the retails, we can open it and transform it to have other retails in front of the park. So that was really clever because then you have only renting on that place. And then at the end, you could have some retails and more, or activities, whatever is in the ground floor. Another thing that was interesting is about e-link, which is, I don't know in English, conciergerie. If someone would help me, I will appreciate. I don't know how the name. It's kind of a third place, you know, that can animate. And that was one of the first project, really first project 8 years ago with citizens and users, because before it was not absolutely in the project. So this is at the moment how it's done. It's really well advanced now. And there's more and more places like this. So the conciergerie was first with public money, helped to animate the place. And at the end, the city say, okay, now I don't want to put any more money in it. So you have to sell services. So I can talk in the subgroup about it, to sell services and find a new economic model without the public company. It's not absolutely done at the moment, it's still fragile, but they're really working hard on it. So you have a website if you want to go, there's conciergerie, there's a lot of things going on there, and it's helping to give the animation of the neighborhood and service to new citizens. The last thing is one of the projects, we have worked on 4 projects, and that was the first project with co-housing. And co-housing means it's the first real habitants, because when you're doing new buildings, in fact, you don't have the habitants. With the co-housing projects, you start with the real habitants that wants to live there, and you work with them to do that new buildings. So we worked with them for 1 year, and that was really interesting that the city in Samoa was really waiting so much from those 15 families. They really wanted, you know, they were the real habitants of the neighborhood. They were kind of, oh, it's so precious. Because at the end you have 2,000 inhabitants, but the first 15 families, it's really important. But they had so much pressure on those families because Samoa said, oh, super, you're gonna have a co-housing and then participative spirit, and then you can animate the island on yourself. So that was a really risky things, and it was a hard things to manage with. So we had a lot of workshop and things that you probably know, and it was really interesting to work with architects. Samoa, which was the first time they were doing co-design, because before they were used to do consultation, citizens consultation, but not co-design. So there's a movie on it. So I just gave the link. So if you want to go see on it, there's a little movie of 3 to 4 minutes. And we have done also, besides something that didn't work that well, with a senior elderly co-housing and another just beside buildings. And at the same time, Samoa said, okay, we don't want only young and families, we want also people, you know, from every age. But the problem, if you have seen the architecture, which is one of the weakness of the project, it's really, would say, minimalist or whatever you want, and people don't like it. Elderly people really don't like it. So it was a real difficult project for 1 year because all those people you see here, they just move and decide not to go on the project after 1 year of working. So I would say at the end that key reasons I've said a lot of them, but it's really ambition, really strong actor, Samoa, 30%, really respected. Sometimes people are almost scared of them because they have a lot of power. It's a long time story, and the vision of the mayor was really important because Nantes was really not a nice city to go to. We have to be aware of a lot of things. It's still a bit, so it's 15 minutes.
Yeah, we need to conclude really now.
Yeah, I'm concluding. So we have to be aware of something. It's really still a top-down, because if you have a really strong actor, then the risk is having a top-down philosophy, and they're trying to move it, you know, working on a bottom-top level, but it's still consultation. It's more like citizens that are really small groups, so they still scared of it. There is a lot of economical challenge at the moment because the city don't want to support it anymore, and they're working hard. I'll give some samples. And I would say the last thing, the impact on professionals ecosystem, it has changed a lot, lots of the practice of architects, engineer, real estate, because the level of ambition is so hard and everybody wants to build there, that the Samoa put the level very high. And now I would say that the professionals who have worked in Nantes, when they go elsewhere, usually people see it because they say, oh, you have a lot of ideas, you take a lot of risks, and we had to. And I think it's a good thing.